part of our film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. I think it's the most important film I've made, close to 3 hours long. And on the expanded extras, he reads from major university studies how they were openly saying that they were drugging and were going to drug the population by the year 2000 to make us a servile population. Now the Huffington Post, the New York Times, BBC are saying the Japanese, the U.S. government, and others, the national sinners at the federal government. Let me just read you the quote here from the U.S. National Institutes of Health, are looking at vaccines that will, quote, change our brain chemistry with a live herpes virus. This is just one of hundreds of vaccines that do this, that, quote, cure drug use. Other vaccines do that by attacking the receptor sites. Those receptors, those drugs are mimicking normal endorphins. You're meant to get angry at corruption. You're meant to get outraged. You're meant to be stressed. You know, if your child's dying of cancer. They don't want you to be able to respond. And EcoScience talks about drugging the water to sterilize you. Now, in just the last hour, a big report from Wired magazine, The Frontal Cortex by John Lear, who's a Rhodes Scholar, that's set up to create world government. He comes out and says, I'm a liar. And he says, well, yes, my earlier article, was quoted as saying it'll make you calmer and make society happier is what the scientist says with this one vaccine, one of many I mentioned. But I won't show you the video Alex created about this called Brain-Eating Vaccines. No, but most of the people in the comment section are attacking him and see through him. But this is so incredible. So incredible they've gone from denying that they're doing this to our water to now saying it's for our own good and they want to give us vaccines that do this. So I want to go to Michael-Coffman, Ph.D. He is a published ecologist. He's advised the federal and state governments. He's the guy that shot down one of the big UN takeovers in the 90s with the maps he put together from government documents of how over half the country will be off limits to the population. It's all covered in Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. He's produced several films exposing man-made global warming as a hoax 4 or 5 years ago when you still got attacked for doing it. And in the last 2 years, he's released a new one. They're all available at Infowars.com. And his new book, Rescuing a Broken America, Why America is Deeply Divided. We'll talk about this some, too, with him. But he's spoken about this covert drugging that's in the government documents, but now it's out in the open. Why do you think it's out in the open now?
Well, so many of the things that the cartel was planning for us 20, 30 years ago in secret is now basically being discussed because I think they think it's too late for us to do anything about it. And we are so dumbed down in our educational system for the last several generations that most people just say, ho-hum, it's business as usual and go on their way. I think that, in fact, if I remember right, the quote that I used out of one of these government documents basically said that. They were going to be able to manipulate us with these kinds of drugs and so forth to the point where we'll be very docile and we won't even be able to respond when something irate does come up.
And there's no doubt the public with the bisphenol A does the same thing, sodium fluoride. We had Dr. Blaylock on about it yesterday. Now the lithium, they admit, is to dumb us down and make us servile, a toxic metal. And they're moving ahead to do this and saying, we're going to give you shots that alter you. And we know they've already been doing it, lacing other vaccines. And in the film, in the expanded extras of Endgame, you talk about and you read the U.S. government and university quotes where they talked about their master plan. Huxley, before he died in '62, he'd written Brave New World Revisited. That was nonfiction. And he said, all of this is what we're planning. This is what we're going to do. You're going to love your servitude. And so you wonder why the public can't get upset. And you wonder why cancer rates and infertility are off the charts. This has been done by design.
I believe it has been, too. I think there's no doubt, based on some of the things that I discussed on Endgame and other things and other writings and so forth that I've done, that they have these techniques of being able to calm down society and basically take our free will.
And, God gives us free will, but I guess, God doesn't know what he's doing, or the universe doesn't know what's going on. It's up to these control freaks. They are going to take our free will, and that's what this does.
Yes, it does. In fact, some of that is in my new book, The Rescuing a Broken America.
Well, we're going to get into the book, but, that's... Dr. Blaylock, of course, top brain surgeon, agreed with you, and he read the government's own quotes about brain damaging us yesterday, that they think they've won. because they see how they can get away with almost anything now. And imagine if Hitler or Stalin or Mao, I mean, they did have fluoride, but imagine if they would have had these more high-tech systems. I mean, it's literally the end of our species if we don't reverse this.
Yes, it is. And, boy, I'm telling you, we're right at the very end now. You and I have talked about this on your program for, 5 or 6 years now at different times, that we're getting close. Well, we're at that point now.
Well, it's more than that. I've been interviewing you for 12 years, but, yeah, we've been...
Okay, it's been 12 years. It could very well be. Just my memory is getting shorter and shorter.
Oh, no. I mean, I've been on air 15 years, and let's talk about some of your successes, though, so people understand we can fight these people. Tell folks about how in the early 90s, mid-90s, you were able to get their documents on the Wilding project and shoot down that UN treaty.
Yes, I was able to get both United Nations, federal, as well as behind-the-scenes NGO, non-governmental organization, document that said that the Wildlands Project was going to set aside one half of the United States and other countries as well, but into wilderness areas or interconnecting wilderness corridors. And it was able to make those links back into the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity back in the early 1990s. When it came up for ratification in the U.S. Senate, I went down to the Senate, explained this to some of the key senators. They said ho-hum because I couldn't prove that that's what it was designed to do. And in August, we sent out a fax alert, which was the technology of the day, shut it down, collapsed the U.S. Senate phone line system, and they brought it back up again in September, and we did it again, and it was still going to the floor for ratification, and I was able to submit a map that I had drawn over the previous 2 years to the U.S. Senate. They put it into a 4-by-6-foot poster, took it out on the Senate floor at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The vote was for 4 o'clock, and it was stopped dead in its tracks. It's still there, but nothing's been done on it since. And I use that as an example, not to elevate myself, but to show you how God can intervene and how he can use individuals to be able to thwart this agenda. And I think we're at that point right now in this whole effort to basically take over and get the last vestiges of the constitutional protections away from you and I in this next election. If we don't stop it in this next election, or stop it, at least slow it down, it's going to be too late.
Well, I want to go to another point. The Rockefellers over 100 years ago, they didn't like charity, so they invented the philanthropist, right. and this is mainline history. They invented the tax-free foundation, and they sold the public, oh, you're breaking up our trust in 1906. We're not going to have monopolies now. But then it comes out the Rockefellers still own the major oil companies. Now they're allowing the new super rich, like Michael Bloomberg and Barron Hilton and Bill Gates and others. And, in fact, we have that Times of London headline, super rich meet in secret, to talk about population control. Will you guys pull up that Times of London, super rich meet in secret, to talk about population control? And so they've met again for population control, and they're all pledging, 30 billionaires, to give large portions, in some cases more than half their wealth, to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and David Rockefeller's pledged more money. But then when you read it, the entire foundation is for nanotech vaccines, mosquitoes that deliver vaccines so you can't say no, sterilization, abortion. Here it is. More billionaires sign the Gates Buffett pledge. And we'll pop that back up on screen. Billionaire Club and bid to curb overpopulation. I mean, this isn't a game. I mean, they're moving against us. They believe the planet's theirs. They want us out of the way.
Yes, they do. There is no question about that. I was unaware of what you just said, but it fits very nicely within their game plan.
Well, we're about to go to break, but let's start getting into rescuing a broken America. We do sell it, by the way, at Infowars.com, so you support Michael-Coffman, Ph.D., and, of course, this operation. But, I mean, the book it really is like a laundry list. It's a great read. It's got solutions, but also documentation about the globalist, global warming fraud. It just covers it all. Briefly, give us a synopsis of the book.
Well, originally it was over 1,000 pages long. I condensed it down to about 200 pages. So if you're really interested in a specific issue, you know I don't go into it in very much depth, but it gives you the broad paintbrush of what the globalists have done over the last 100 years to bring us to where we are right now, and how it's being manifest in the Obama administration, who is doing it, what institutions they've taken away, how they have basically caused the serious, deep division that we have in the United States, and what they've done with property rights to nullify them, because property rights are the key to wealth creation. There's no way around it. And then finally, some ideas as to how we can confront this starting in November.
And this is an ongoing culture war against the collectivist, dehumanizing eugenicist and free humanity. And your book's not going to be the total solution. Endgame's not going to be the total solution. Obama deception isn't going to be the total solution. My new videos, you know, The Secret of Food Exposed, Food, the Ultimate Secret Exposed, but all of it together, our willingness to resist. Yeah. Everything the controllers do is about pacifying us. That shows they understand they're not invincible.
That's right. And they are vulnerable, and they're vulnerable right now, probably the most that they'll ever be if we do not take advantage of it.
That's right, because they've come out in the open. Obama has fallen flat on his face. There's a huge awakening. The patriots that really know what's going on, we've got to get into the Tea Parties and everywhere else and really supercharge people's awakening.
Yes, there's no question of that. I go into the book on that, and obviously you're talking about it. Many of the radio hosts are talking about it. People are getting fired up.
Well, the biggest issue, we've got to face just how horrifying our situation is. So many people are victims of crime because they can't believe it's happening to them. It does happen. It is happening here. The book is Rescuing a Broken America, Why America's Deeply Divided. It's at Infowars.com if you want to get a copy. It's an amazing book. Everybody needs to read it. We'll be right back.